I'd like to call a regular meeting of City Council with Committee of the Whole for Monday, April 24th to order. Our first order of business is two delegations. So we have Melody Hauser and Alanda Stables and Fire Chief Todd Pickett here. So if you guys want to come up, I can read out the proclamation. Welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Whereas first responder units of police officers, firefighters, and ambulance personnel are integral to our community's health, and whereas first responders are highly trained professionals willing to shoulder the stress of emergencies and put themselves in vulnerable situations every day to protect our citizens and communities, notwithstanding the cost to themselves and their families. And whereas the City of Dawson Creek recognizes a fluctuating societal climate that places more challenges than ever on our first responders, and whereas it is incumbent on Dawson Creek as a community to show our appreciation in a way that encourages and upholds these workers and their families. Now, therefore, I do hereby proclaim May 1st, 2023 as First Responders Day in Dawson Creek. So, thank you. Here you go, and thank you for taking the time to put this forward. This says everything that we feel in here about what our first responders do, and it's not just about the vulnerable spots you put yourselves in, but it's your families and in our community. So we're extremely appreciative of it. So yeah, so thank you. A picture if you want. Do you want a picture? Thank you. What do we want a picture with everybody? We're gonna do them with everybody. Let's go. There's only 7 of them we have to do.
Yeah, I know, we got like 8 delegations.
Yeah. You could just stay up here.
Yeah, we do it for one delegation.
Yeah. We're doing this.
Flip side though, is now the other delegations have more people out of Birchville.
Thank you. You guys can stay up if you want or keep walking back and forth.
We'll give you the 4 all the time. Yeah, we don't have a quorum without us sitting
Thank
down.
you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next we have Sherry Topher, is that correct? Here. Welcome.
Thank
Did I pronounce that right?
My Topher.
My Topher, sorry. Whereas multiple sclerosis is a chronic, often disabling neurological disease affecting an estimated 1 in 400 Canadians and approximately 90,000 across the country. And whereas multiple sclerosis symptoms vary widely and may lead to problems with numbness, coordination, vision, and speech, as well as extreme fatigue and even paralyzing. And whereas there is no known cause of prevention of or cure for multiple sclerosis. And whereas MS Canada is the only national organization in Canada that supports both MS research and services for people with MS and their families. And whereas annual fundraising events such as the MS Walk, MS Bike, and A&W Canada's Burger to Beat MS campaign support programs to enhance the lives of people affected by multiple sclerosis and their families and support MS research in Canada. And whereas since 1948, MS Canada has contributed $200 million towards MS research and is grateful for the dedication and commitment of its supporters and volunteers that has made this possible. And whereas together we will find ways to connect and empower the MS community to create positive change and to see a world free of multiple sclerosis. Now therefore I hereby proclaim the month of May 2023 to be MS Awareness Month for MS Canada. So, thank you. Thank you for doing this and putting this forward. I have a few people that are fairly close to me in my life with MS, so it's definitely have been exposed to it, and it's.
So you guys have been proclaiming for 6 years now and raising our flag. So I just want to say thank you for that. The amount of people that reach out. I'm from Fort St. John, but I come here every year to do this, and the amount of people that reach out to me because they see our flag flying and my name is associated, it means a lot because they know that there's somebody here who has MS and that can help them. So that's what I I try to do, so I thank you.
Well, thank you very much, so. All right, I'm gonna get out. Counselors up. They like the exercise back and forth, so.
All right. They don't really like it, do they?
We usually Counselor Parslow's here and he really likes
No.
walking back and forth, so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Perfect, no, thank you. See you next year.
Yeah, safe travels home. All right, next we have Miss Jamie Gillicaham and Miss Dawn Carpenter. And Elisa. Yeah. Were you on the list?
I was down.
Oh, snuck in there. Welcome, ladies. Whereas the Day of Mourning was initiated by the Canadian Labour Congress in 1984 and it is recognized worldwide. And whereas the Day of Mourning is a day to take time to remember lost coworkers, friends, and family who have lost their lives, were disabled or injured in the workplace, and those affected with industrial disease. And whereas we earnestly seek to set an example and reflect on our commitment to the issue of health and safety in the workplace. Now therefore, I do hereby proclaim April 28th, 2023 as the annual Day of Mourning in Dawson Creek. Thank you.
Thank you.
And obviously, thank you for the safety that we do in, our workplace, but all workplaces. It's, the most important thing in every industry, so thank you. I did have, I forgot the mic on the last one, so there you go. If you want to say a few words.
I just want to say that we would love it if any of our community members want to join us on Friday for our Day of Mourning celebration. It starts at 11:30 here at City Hall, out at our Workers' Memorial. This is going to be another emotional one for the city. February was the 1-year anniversary that one of our colleagues, CJ, unfortunately passed on the way to work. So this is absolutely something that's near and dear to the hearts of those who work here at the city. And we would really appreciate anyone who wanted to come out and recognize those folks who are injured or who pass away due to workplace-related incidents. So thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. Looking up. Thank you.
You're welcome. I guess I could take the Post-it notes off.
It's all good.
All right, and then next we have Miss Sarah Fallis and Miss Chelsea Modishaw. I seen Alyssa duck down there, so I thought Chelsea was hiding.
Just hiding in the background.
Welcome, ladies. Whereas hundreds of thousands of Canadians show their concern for the environment in their communities each year by participating in Pitch in Canada, projects to refuse, reuse, recycle, and properly dispose of waste, clean up and rejuvenate local neighborhoods, green spaces, ravines, waterways, and illegal dump sites, restore habitats, and to establish composting and recycling projects. Whereas Pitch in Canada, a national community-based organization comprised of eco-action and community volunteers, believes that maintaining a quality environment and encouraging civic pride is everyone's responsibility. Whereas Pitch in Canada encourages voluntary action to keep communities clean and beautiful and restore and maintain a healthy environment. Now therefore, I hereby proclaim the week of May 8th to 19th, 2023 to be Pitch in Canada Week and invite all citizens in our region to participate in Pitch in Week. So, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
8th to the 19th is more than a week.
Well, it is, and Sarah can probably add to that.
Yeah, so we actually
Just give me
recognize We recognize Pigeon Week through Community Cleanup, which is May 8th to 19th. It's due to the weather not being very reliable at this time of year for us. And I'd also like to take a moment to thank the Rotarians and Trans-Canada Trail who contribute financially and with manpower to help us make this successful with the Seniors Yard Waste Cleanup as well.
Awesome.
And it sounds like this year we are full.
We're full, yeah.
We're full. So all the areas that have been designated within the community, we have groups that are already registered and signed up to clean up.
Awesome.
So
Hopefully we'll exceed the 291 bags filled last year.
yeah,
Wow, that's crazy that it's that much. So I think that's another thing too. Like, I mean, it's such an important week to focus on this and to clean it up, but I think it's more like getting the awareness out that this is how we should live all the time. Like, we should respect the land that we live on and, you know, and focus on this stuff year round. But it's definitely nice that we, you know, we notice it for a week. So thank you. So,
thank you.
you're welcome. Oh, can't run away that quick.
Come on in.
One day I'll figure that mic out there.
So we get workplace movement.
Yeah, exactly.
Up, down, up, down.
Yeah. Keep the morale up, right?
Yeah.
Energy steps.
Great, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah.
Memories to back up.
All right, our next order of business is 2.5. We have Mr. Tyrell Pohl and Mr. Richard Payne from the South Peace Soccer Association in attendance regarding soccer field user fees. So welcome, both of you. Oh, okay. Amy Councillor Kempf has a conflict, so she's just going to step out for this, so. Welcome, Tyrell and Rich. If you just push that button on the mic there, Rich, and then I will turn that on. There you go. The floor is all yours, so welcome.
Thank you. I'm Tyrell Pohl. I am president of the South Beach Soccer Association, and with me today is Richard Payne, who's the director of Fields and Equipment. Before we really get into the depth of what we're here for, we want to ask council two questions. The first is, do you believe in accessible sports? Does council believe in that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Our second question is, on our delegation request, we asked for a cost analysis on the fields, and we were hoping that someone had a chance to look into it or anything like that. Was that done? Do we have a cost analysis on what everything costs?
Not at this point.
Not at this point? Okay. So, what we are looking at, we have some challenges within our organization that happened over the last few years between COVID and an individual hurting our organization. So we are looking for some help from the city on user fees, specifically on the cost. We did some research among other cities that are in our area and similar sizes and larger on what their user fees are. And the city of Dawson Creek comes in significantly higher on all fronts between adult and youth. What we're really looking for is, with our financial state and our finances, we are actually looking for the city to perhaps waive our user fees for the next 3 years while we recover financially. And then following that, we are asking the city to review their user fees and their actual costs and looking at what that they actually are, because we find that they are upon the line of not providing the kids with accessible sports if the user fees continue to go up. We are right at the precipice right now of, can we afford to play on the soccer park and maintain accessible sports and affordable sports for parents. So just to give you an idea of where we sit, for this year, user fees for us for playing for 9 weeks is $14,000. That is what it is going to cost South Beach Soccer Association. And that does not include lining or paying someone to line our fields. So lining is an additional $14,000. We are projected to bring in $55,000. So over half of our costs go into the fields. We also have things we got to pay refs. Refs is an additional $14,000. Our admin fee to pay Engage Sport North is $6,000. They admin our program. They they look after our scheduling, our registration, and they have a coordinator that looks after everything once the play starts. Additional costs that we have to pay are insurance, which of course is a liability insurance. It's $3,700 for that. And then our final cost is uniforms on age groups U11 and above, which is another $3,600. So those are our costs. So in regards to user fees, we checked out what Fort St. John charges per user fees, and we checked out what Grand Prairie did, and as well as Prince George. Now, our user fees are based on half fields. Okay, so half a field. So it is, kids user fees are $20.54 per half field, and adults are $41.08 per half field. Okay. In comparison, Fort St. John charges $11 for kids for a field, and they charge $22 for adults. Grand Prairie has a blanket cost for their soccer park, which is 5 youth fields of $21.25 an hour. Prince George user fees for their fields are $2.25 an hour for youth and $19 an hour for adults, and associations that are related to the community have no charge. So just to give you an idea where other communities sit compared to Dawson Creek. So that is why we're requesting a review of the soccer field parks, and as well as a complete breakdown of where the money goes when we are billed it. So how much goes towards mowing, how much goes towards admin fees, how much goes towards watering. Because last year we paid $17,000. Our fields were mowed irregularly and they weren't watered after May. I know there was an issue with the watering system, but still let for damage to the fields because it was not watered and they weren't maintained properly. Another thing is when they do mow, they don't stick to a schedule. And so we will line the fields, and then that afternoon or that next day, they get mowed and we have to reline again, incurring additional costs for relining. So that is kind of where we're at. We're looking for help financially to get us off the ground, back off the ground after we have suffered through COVID and through an individual who financially damaged us. Okay, so that's where we are.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming in for your presentation, and also thanks for taking on the youth soccer in Dawson Creek, because I know it was in some tough times, and there was talk of it not even continuing this year. And you said there's
418 kids have registered.
Youth, so it's very obviously important to our community. So thank you. I have a few questions. I can open it up to council first, and Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you for coming to visit with us today. So what is the annual registration cost for a child signing up for a season of soccer?
We have it split into multiple age groups. So U4 is 105 for the year, for the 2 months. U5 to U7 is 125. U8 to U11 is 130, and then U15 is 150.
Okay, and that does that include uniforms, everything?
That includes uniforms, everything. Everything up to U9 is covered by Timbit Sports for uniforms, and so U11 and U15s is what we provide for sport, for uniforms.
Cool, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor Apollonio?
So how how long you've been like paying this kind of fees on the city of Dawson Creek? So since
I believe it's been since 2015 the user fees were implemented. And just one other thing is that when the fields went in, we didn't pay any user fees because at the time South Beach Junior Soccer helped facilitate and build the fields.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? No? I have a few. Oh, did you have more, Councillor?
No, you go.
Okay. So I guess just adding up all your costs is about $56,000 and you have $55,000 in registration, is that?
Yeah, that is so we haven't included our adult registration because that hasn't concluded yet, but rough costs on adult registration or intake is roughly $16,000.
Okay. So then you're thinking for you're looking for a break for the next 3 years
Yes.
in order to get you guys back in a better financial spot. Which I understand a bit. What are the fees? So it's hard to compare Fort St. John and Grand Prairie because I don't know if, there's different things in each community, whether some regional districts pay for some stuff with some of their activities, so it's hard. But what we charge for a child, is it on about the same rate as what Grand Prairie and Fort St. John would charge?
So they charge more.
Okay.
They charge more, and they pay less than user fees.
Okay.
They also, we also do know that they do pay their refs more,
Okay.
and their seasons are longer.
And just stays in the club, so. Okay, I think that, did you have something else, Councillor Earl? Or? Just a follow-up on the comment about the mowing and watering. Has that issue to your, do you get a sense that that issue's been rectified moving into this year as far as the scheduling, as far as stuff like that? Because I'm guessing it's just a lack of somewhere the communication fell off. Knowing our staff, I'm sure they're not going out of their way to frustrate your efforts to keep your fields.
Parks and Rec was supposed to walk the fields with us before we started everything. They have now told us they're too busy to walk the fields with us before we begin anything. And so we haven't been able to coordinate anything at this point.
Okay. Well, let's maybe leave that with us. We'll look into that. But thank you for the feedback. And then, that's kind of it for now. I just wanted to see if there'd been some improvement on that front. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Earl. And I guess, part of everything is communication is key, right? So, and I know just from knowing a few of the board members previously, there was some struggles, right, with communication internally, externally. So I think that's something we can always look at. But okay, well, I want to thank you again for taking on this project this year and coming in and sharing this with us. It comes back under mayor's business later on in the council meeting, and we'll decide from. Okay, Councillor. Apologies. Sorry, coming in late here. With respect to the information that the delegation requested to guide the conversation, is that something, can we have some sort of supplementary for the mayor's business vote so we can make the decision? Like what the clear ask is? Well, I'm aware what the ask is, but when we're talking about costs, I don't expect it to be that granular a breakdown. I mean, I know we've got, when it comes to how user fees are formulated for recreation and cultural services, it's 75% for kids, 50% for adults is the kind of bar napkin math we operate off of, and Kevin can correct me if I'm mistaken.
So through your worship, we can, I'll talk to Aaron prior to mayor's business. We'll try and pull some information together that will help guide your decision on that, at least give you the background of where these fees originated, just the concepts behind them. And hopefully that'll help. Thank you. So once it comes back to mayor's business, we will go through it. And, just to clarify, the ask is that you would like it waived for the next 3 years?
Yeah, and then analysis and hopefully a reduction for previous year, for following years.
Okay. Thank you guys very much for coming in. So.
All right, next was 2.6. We have Mr. Sean Henry, Dawson Creek Judo Association in attendance regarding the request for donation. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you, Your Worship, Council. Yeah, I'm here. I'm Sean Henry. I'm the president of the Dawson Creek Judo Association. I'm here requesting a donation of 100 swim passes to be included as part of our tournament package to our 5th annual Battle in the Peace tournament, which is happening this coming weekend. The mission of the Dawson Creek Judo Association is to support the development of judo in Dawson Creek, particularly in the Peace region in general, and develop athletes out of our community to be able to participate and compete at local, provincial, and national levels. Through our support, we have been able to send several athletes to provincial level competition and a few also to national level competition several years back now in Montreal when nationals were held in Montreal in, I believe, 2018-19. 2019 was also the last time we hosted the tournament here. We hosted it at the Ovintiv Center, and it was really well turned out. Prince George brought a bus full of athletes up there. The cost was significant for us to host there, and council did support us with swim passes that last time, which were really well received by the athletes coming up here and traveling here, as well as our local competitors. Oftentimes I've found traveling with judoka that the pool is kind of the place that people land after tournament day. So it's something that I also haven't seen in too many places where there is a swim pass included. Often it's like a t-shirt or some other swag that goes in there, but the swim passes have been really well received. For us, 2019 being that last year, 2020, obviously pandemic, and it basically mothballed all of the judo that we could do for several years. We slowly were able to build back up, and we're full swing this year. The Mile Zero Judo Club has nearly 90 active athletes between youth and adults, and approximately 60 youth athletes that are currently active. We've sent, and with the Dawson Creek Judo Association support, 25 athletes to the Edmonton International Judo Tournament and 25 to the Prince George Open local tournament over the past 6 weeks. And at those places, we were, encouraging people to come see us. We are expecting competitors from Wembley, Grand Prairie, Prince George at this point, and hopefully our registration gets it close to that 100 competitors mark. I think we're sitting somewhere around 75 or 80 at the moment athletes going to compete, and 30, 35 or so from out of town. Our goal as an association really is to continue growing this tournament so that it does act as a bit of a revenue generator for the association. This year, picking up after COVID, we're kind of in a tighter financial spot, and we've had to pick up, the hardware for our medalists, and all of those costs have gone up as well. And so, the goal is breaking even with tournament fees and that kind of thing. And so, another reason that I'm here today asking for council support with these swim passes to include in our registration in our packages for athletes. I think it's of good benefit to the community. It's encouraging people to stick around for a little bit longer if they're local to the Peace, and maybe go to the pool with their family and spend some time in restaurants and other businesses here. And the ones that are coming from further afar, it's a nice addition to their registration package that they can go to the pool and providing to the athletes, then it's encouraging their family members, siblings, or parents that might be going with them to also go swimming at the pool as well. So I do think it is of benefit to the community in general, and hope that council would consider supporting this.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, Sean. Questions, councillors? No? Councillor Earl? No? Okay. No, I just wanted to, thank you, Sean, for coming in, and also thank you for, to you and your organization for putting this on and for what you do in the community. Realize with all organizations coming out of the last couple of years we had, it's a struggle. So I can appreciate the efforts that have to go into it to get things back up and going. So just thank you to yourself and to your organization. So like I said earlier, I think the ask is pretty clear. It'll come back under mayor's business, and we'll discuss it then. But if nobody has any questions, I don't think there's much more that I have. So so thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Sean. Next order of business is 2.7. Brenda?
Yeah, through your worship, we are a little ahead of schedule.
Okay.
So she was just called and she is on our way at the moment.
Okay. So I will vary the agenda and we'll move on. So next is 3 late items. So I just need a motion to approve the first item, 3.1. Councillor Kemp, second. Councillor Sudnick. I'll call that to vote. That's carried. Oh, sorry. That's carried. Getting ahead of myself there. All right. So 3.1, we have a letter from Mr. Alex Reshny, President, South Peace Mile Zero Park Society, received on April 20th, 2023, regarding a request for a letter of support for a grant application. Was there a councillor that would like to motion? Councillor Earl?
Sorry. Am I motioning to approve the request or to add it to the agenda because it's a late item?
No, we've already had the
Okay,
motion
both.
to
Okay.
accept it as a late item, so. we're
In
dealing
which
with
case, I was, sorry, brain turned off there for a sec. I move that we grant the applicant's request to provide a letter of support.
Okay, do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick? Any discussion? No? All right, I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed, and it's carried. I also need another motion to approve or to receive late item 3.2. Councillor Earl, second Councillor Sudnick. Call that to vote. Oh. My wording changed on there. Vote is closed. It's carried. So next order of business is 3.2. Late item, we have a letter from Mr. Trevor Ouellette, Information Technology Manager, the Peace River Regional District, sent on April 21st, 2023, regarding a request for a letter of support from TELUS Pure Fiber Internet Expansion Project. Councillor Earl?
Move that we provide said letter of support.
Second. Councillor Kemp. Any discussion? All right, I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Was there another? Brenda? Oh.
Yes, through your worship, I did receive a late item and I did have it printed out, so I'll distribute them at the moment.
Okay. So I'll need a motion to approve late item 3.3. Councillor Sudnick. Second, Councillor Apollonio. All in favor? I will call that vote, and then I'll just give it a minute to read through this, so. Kevin, is there any, just reading through this, it's a letter to approve camping May 6th and May 7th, and I know we have to do this for a few other events. Is there anything that we need to know, like it covers?
No, through your worship, this is pretty standard.
Okay.
You know, they've asked for it, specific days, and they're also going to look after the cleanup and everything. So again, it's nothing that's out of the ordinary for these types of requests.
Okay, thank you. Anybody like to? Councillor Sudnick?
I'll just make the motion, we approve the request.
Yeah, thank you. Second, Councillor Apollonio. Any discussion? No? Okay, all right, I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed and it's carried. All right, I will go back to item number 2.7. We have Ms. Sue Kenny, Community Futures Peace Yard in attendance regarding the 2022 highlights and 2023 plan, programs, and services. So welcome, Sue.
Thanks for having me. Just don't know if you have a printout of this.
Is this the one that was on digital too? Oh, we didn't get it, actually.
No?
No. Sue, I don't know if they mentioned, oh. Welcome, Sue, and thank you. And I don't know if they mentioned before, we do have these clocks up, so they'll just be set for 10 minutes, and then once it gets down to 10 minutes, a big dong goes, and then you got to run away. So, yeah.
So no, that's great.
Could you just push the button on your mic? Great. Oops.
You can hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Sue, and welcome.
Thank you. Yes, I've been doing the tour of the Northeast, visiting all the mayors and councils to talk to them about Community Futures and what we do and how we've performed over the last 5 years. And so what I handed out was a 5-year report, annual report for the year end. Our year ends March 31st. And so with the new mayors and councils, it's, I'm sure seeing a lot of new faces, that's for sure. It's great. So those of that don't know much about us, Community Futures was formed in 1985, and it was to address the downturn of the economy. And small businesses were struggling, and small businesses couldn't get funds, a loan at the bank, and existing businesses couldn't get credit lines. And so the government stepped in, very much like COVID-19. They stepped in, and they supported, I forget how many were at the beginning. I think it was like 160 Community Futures across Canada in the beginning. And each one was given funds for a loan and administration dollars to have a staff to deliver that loan. So that's where we all started. And so we were given, it all came to about $1 million for each Community Futures office that in 1985. And then moving on, and then we were to administer that loan and take care of that loan and make sure that the clients were vetted and that we collected. But the big part was our business counseling and our hand-holding with that business from the start of their business till the end. And that's, to me, is the success of Community Futures. They've done studies, the federal government has done studies on businesses that were supported by Community Futures and businesses that weren't supported by Community Futures that were on their own. And the percentages were quite high. There were 20% more businesses succeeded with the Community Futures lending and business counseling for small businesses. And so we today, from that small injection, we get paid administration fees every year to deliver the loans program, but there's an expectation for community economic development and economic development. They put a whole lot on us, just like they do with local government and the federal government. They've put a whole lot on us with no extra money. We haven't gotten any extra money since 2004. We're operating on the same amount from the government, which is $330,000 since then, and yet we have a staff of 4, and our operating plan budget is $700,000, and the reason it's $700,000 is projects that we do, and that delivers community economic development and jobs in the communities and helps communities, and it also creates work, and so that model's been successful for us. Every Community Futures has their different models. That's what we do here in the Peace. We have the largest area as far as Community Futures goes in British Columbia. Peace Liard is the largest area, so we do have a lot of ground to cover. So when you don't see us in your council chambers on a regular basis, it's because it's pretty hard to do that. We're governed by a board of directors. Presently, Naomi Larson, she's the manager with the Chetwynd District Chamber of Commerce. She's been our chair for the last 2 years, and she was going to be continue to be chair for the next year. And so, just a list of our board of directors that represent our region, and we are right now recruiting for new board members from Fort Nelson, Fort St. John, and Tumbler Ridge. So our business loan program, that's why I printed you out this, because this is what I'm really proud of. When I said what we started out with, now we manage a $10.5 million investment fund, loan fund. And the average loan is anywhere really, it says 70,000, but really average is between 70,000 and 100,000. And 70% of those loans are medium and high risk, and 40% are startup. And then this here is our statistics. It's on page 7. And this is the statistics for the last 5 years. And so when you look in the first column, you'll see WD targets. So that's what the expectation is for us to accomplish in our year. Business training, 100. Business advisory, 300, lend $400,000. And so, but when you read across the board, our actuals for the year 2018, 19, 19, 20, and so on, those 5 years. Business training, our actual was over 1,000, was 1,100, and then our business advisory services was over 3,000. And our loan values were over $8 million. And when you see the targets next to our CF actual on the far right-hand side, you'll see that our targets for 5 years was 500 for advisory services. Targets for business advisory service, 1,500 for 5 years. And for 5 years of lending, $2 million. And so I can say, we measure up pretty good in the province of BC and across Canada as far as how our Community Futures office is doing. We're very stable, and that was recognized when we delivered the RRF fund, the CEBA funds. We were the 3rd in British Columbia in delivering loans to businesses during the COVID crisis. And so we offer business plan programs and resources, so business plan templates. So when you go on our website, if you want to go into business, you can go into our website, and it's all there. It'll take you from A to Z. It has a template. It has assessment of how you assess your business and how to work out financially if your business is going to work. And then we coach you. We are presently really pushing the Taking Care of Business program. It's a membership program that any business can go online, go onto our website, and register as a member. And what that gets you is free business training with very well-educated consultants delivering the webinars. And we also have a $5,000 training fund. It's $5,000 total. So in your business, if you need to train up your employees, whether you're a hairdresser, whether you're a mechanic, whether you're a truck driver, it doesn't matter what business it is, we will cover that cost of that training. But the $5,000 would include the training and the travel. And so, for an example, Haida Gwaii, they needed Class 1 drivers, and so the companies got together in Haida Gwaii. There was 3 companies. They got together and they brought in a trainer, and it was covered. $5,000 here, $5,000 there for the businesses. That brought that trainer in and helped all those businesses move forward and get new people behind the wheel. And so this program's going to run till July 2024. It started in July 2022. And also any training, if there's training that you've done with your business, if it was done after July 30th, we will still reimburse that training. Anything before that date, though, the program wasn't running. But this program started in July, and so that's why we will submit. So if you go on the website, register as a member, and then look at the training components, peer mentoring components, and consultant, it's all there. Or you can call Fran Hoyen at our office, and she'll help you through it. And that's it. That was the key things, and then the rest.
You're right on time.
The rest just tells the story, and I'm right on time.
The zapper did work. Wow.
Well, this is my I only got one more council to deliver to. So, any questions?
Yeah, thank you very much, Sue, for coming in and giving us a presentation. Any questions? Councillor Earl?
Thank you, and hi, Sue. Thanks
Hi.
for coming in to see us. So with respect to the program you were just informing us all about, is that available to just businesses? Would people who are nonprofits or work for nonprofits be
Nonprofits as well.
Eligible? Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
nonprofits are eligible. Yeah. They have to be like a social enterprise, though. Sorry. So they got to be, there's got to be revenues and social enterprise. When they're making money to help an organization like Salvation Army, a thrift store, those kinds of organizations, that's what we consider a social enterprise. So.
Thank you. Councillor Apollonio?
Thank you, Your Worship. Hi, sir.
Hi.
Nice to see you again. Just a question. Is there a fee to be a member or just
No.
go to the website?
No.
And you said it's open to anybody, like even small businesses, like
Yes.
striving to start a business or even non-profit?
Yeah, it's not for business starts. You could be a member and go into the business starts to learn how to be a business. Yeah, but it's meant for businesses that have been operating for at least 4 months.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? No, I had a few, Sue. I just wanted to thank you for coming in and actually thank you for what you and your team does. You have an amazing team there, and you do so much for our area and our community to help. And I've had the pleasure to work with you and for the last lot of years, it seems like. But
that's been it.
Yeah, no, it's just been amazing. So and just great information to see and how high the numbers are. So it's definitely a success. So thank you. I had one question kind of off of this topic, but
I've been waiting for it.
Yeah. Okay.
I only got 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Taking up 2 now. Going on 3.
Yeah, with the city awards, I wanted to just kind of get an update, and I know Community Futures is taking that on this year, and I'm gonna bring some life to them and back. So I just wanted to, if you had an update.
Well,
on
I've
it.
started with looking at dates, and so I'm thinking that, and so now I'm sourcing venues. I've connected with the curling club so far. And, but looking at October, I believe it's October 27th.
Okay.
And it'll be on a Saturday. And so what I'm doing right now is getting the venue secured. And then I think the best thing to do is I'm going to do a call for proposals for the food. Now, I've been talking with the curling rink, and I know they have their catering and everything. And but I think, you know, we want to give opportunity. When we talked about this, we wanted to give all businesses opportunity. So it'd be nice if we could support a couple of businesses in this instead of just one. And so I'm going to come up with menus or ask for menus, do a call for proposals, and see what we get.
Okay.
And for the food. And then I was going to reach out next week in regards to the trophies and everything, whatever information that you guys have. I want to see what you did last year, and then take it from there.
Okay.
But it should. I want everything. Everything will be in place. I would say by the end of May.
Okay.
Everything will be in place, and we'll have a date, and we can start marketing. We got to start like right away, getting it out, getting the word out on the awards for people to be nominated. And so I am going to call you and talk to you about this and about being on the committee.
Exciting. Okay. Thank you, Sue.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any other questions. No. Thank you for coming in, Sue, and
Okay,
thanks for the
thanks.
presentation. Have a great day.
Good.
Thank you.
I like the layout. It's pretty good.
Yeah. I'm just going to take a 5-minute recess until 10 o'clock. So, council meeting with committee of the whole for Monday, April 24th, back to order. So our next order of business was 4 new councillor business. We have 4.1 memo from Councillor Apollonio regards to the Olympics Filipino Canadian Community Sports Event. Oh, get push again. Councillor Apollonio.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. Just reporting from being a liaison of the Community Resources. So just want to give you a background that we just finished our Filipino-Canadian sports event, like the Olympics. We call it Olympics. It started way back 2011, and from one day, it's now becoming 11 days. So it's kind of, we're happy because we're making it more dynamic and more progressive. Though it's tiring, but it's making more people like happy, especially being a positive contributor of the community. So it's like it started March 4, 2023 and ended April 8. So it's like 11 days or 6 weekends at the Central and South Peace Gym. And we are very thankful to the 2 gyms because we are allowed to use the gym without too much expenses. We just only paid the insurance, and thank you very much for the Central and South Peace. So from it, I think the attendance was during the time is like 300 or 400 people in and out. So it's a very good event, and again we thank you to the city because we are able to to organize, to gather ourselves, and of course, we are really trying our best to be active and positive contributors of the society or the community. So, and I think, for example, Councillor Jeremy Hill were invited before, like during ceremonial toss, and of course, even last year, for example, before the election. So, thank you very much for gracing the affair, and we are looking forward to do it again by the fall to 2023. So, and maybe you will be receiving invitations this time.
Great. Thanks,
and
Councillor.
you can look at the pictures. So, yeah, beautiful pictures.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Apollonio, and thanks for the update on that and the pictures actually too. I noticed you pulled Al Modishaw out of retirement to ref, so that was good to see. So
well, actually, as I said, it's like really a conglomeration of different cultures. You have, of course, these referees from the community, and of course from South Asian community, and even the students from the South Peace and from the Central. So it's really like community gathering together from all walks of life, from all backgrounds. So we're so happy that they're coming.
Yeah, it's quite the amazing experience down there too, how like the whole family culture and the events, it's more than just the sport. So yeah, so good job. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? No? All right, next 4.2, we have Councillor Liaison Report from Councillor Apollonio regarding the 2023 city cleanup campaign.
Okay. So as part of the, thank you, Your Worship. As part of the Canada Pitch In, which we discussed this morning, so the City of Dawson Creek 20 cleanup is on. So I had the meeting with Ms. Anna Eichelberger, the System Administrator and Marketing Coordinator of the City Hall. So just important things to remember, April 3 to 28, 2023, to register any local nonprofit group to volunteer in the cleanup, $200 per site. Number to call is 250-784-3604. That's 250-784-3604. And April 3 to May 5th, 2023 is to register the yard waste pickup for our beloved seniors and person with disability. And of course, the same number to call. Just be advised of the guide and the requisites to qualify. And of course, May 8 to 19 is the community cleanup week, which discussed a while ago. And of course, May 10 to 11, 2023 is the yard waste pickup for seniors and persons with disability. And of course, we thank the Rotary Clubs of Dawson Creek for the assistance. So we're looking forward for more. Yeah, as I mentioned before, mentioned earlier that the groups were filled up. So we're happy. At least it's getting back to normal after that pandemic. So thank you very much for the support.
Thank you, Councillor. Any questions? Any other new councillor business? All right, number 5, adoption of minutes. Let's get a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of council from April 11th, 2023 for adoption. Councillor Apollonio, Councillor Sudnick. Call that to vote.
When the voter Greg wasn't there, so.
Oh, but we act as a board.
Okay, fair enough.
Does that matter, Brenda? He's read the minutes and went through them. He's acts as a member of our board, right?
Yeah, through your worship, if he was not in attendance at the meeting, it should be moved and seconded by those that were in attendance at the meeting.
I'll remove that then. Could somebody like to move it? Councillor Sudnick, second, Councillor Kemp. Any discussion? Or I guess there isn't. I'll call that to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Any business arising? All right. 7, correspondence. 7.1, we have email from Kelly Jarvis, resident of Dawson Creek, sent on April 3rd, 2023, regarding the request for sidewalk repair in the Tremblay School area. I guess maybe before we go, Kevin, I get you to talk a little bit about it. I did, I don't know if it's on the plan. I know me and you've had some discussions, so maybe we can bring the rest in, but I don't think it's on our paving plan, but I did go walk those streets, and not just that one, but all 3 of those by Tremblay, and they're all like kind of getting to the point. It looks like not even just the sidewalks, but the streets themselves are looking like they're needing some maintenance. And I know we got a big project, but I'm just wondering if you can maybe give a bit of an update before we address this. Sure, through your worship. So down in the Tremblay area, I'm familiar with it. I lived in that area for a number of years. Those sidewalks are very old and getting very tired. The streets in that area were repaved probably about 25, right around 25 years ago. But at that time, we were simply just going in and overlaying areas, and we weren't looking at replacing any of the other ancillary infrastructure. So we didn't look at street lighting, we didn't do sidewalks. We just went in and capped the road and carried on. And certainly you can get a lot more done doing that, but then over time you're left with some other infrastructure that is past its usefulness. So in order to remove and replace that sidewalk on that one block where the request is coming from, just for context, it's about plus or minus $250,000 to do that work.
Just the sidewalks on that
on one block.
street.
Yep. So, and again, if council wants to make those a priority, we could certainly look at doing that in the coming years. Right now, what we've been focusing on is not so much the local streets, but some of the larger, more collector streets like we did last year and again this year with 94th, 95th, 96th, those cross ones, 15th Street. We are trying to sprinkle in a few local roads as well. But I guess, and what drives that capital plan is our pavement condition assessment, which was done probably 6 years ago. And that really relates to the pavement surface. And so there may be some maintenance that's needed in that area, but those roads hadn't risen to the top, so to speak, as far as being priorities as of yet. So that's why. When we do eventually go into the Tremblay area and start doing more, we will be doing it as a complete package where we look at roads, sidewalks, street lighting, any water and sewer that needs to be done at that point in time. So.
Okay. So when you said that the paving report was done 6 years ago, how long was that good for? Like, did that do for like 20-year plan, or was it like a 10-year plan?
So the paving and assessment, condition assessment at the time is just a snapshot. What it is it's basically a vehicle with a bunch of mobile sensory equipment in it, drives every road, every lane, and then produces a report that says, okay, this road condition, based on drivability and the sensors and the imagery, that it's either excellent or, it's okay, or it's all the way down to it's failed. So we use that as something that drives the capital plan, because we know obviously starting with the worst streets that are the busiest, i.e., collectors, arterials, we started off doing those. We could redo the pavement condition assessment, that work again, and probably should be in the next year or so, just to update it. Because roads that were moderate or okay are probably a little bit worse now, obviously, than they were, 6 years ago. But we've been using that as a guiding, document to help us which ones were priorities.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Sorry, one other option for the sidewalk is, we do have a policy. It is a little bit outdated, but it does talk about local area service, that individuals in neighborhoods, in local neighborhoods, certainly have the ability to petition council to do a local area service, which means the residents would pay for that sidewalk. Now, that is typically used in areas where there are no, it's an additional piece of infrastructure. This is a replace and repair. So I doubt that the citizens would be in favor, the property owners in that area would be in favor of going down a local area service to replace the sidewalk. So.
Yeah, it's a tough one because, there's obviously lots of areas in Dawson that we got to catch up on, and then there's only so much time. But I think for me, I guess it's just, it is kind of decaying the street and the sidewalk there, and then, we don't have a plan for it, so that means it could be 5 years or 10 years out. Like, it probably won't last that long. So I think that's, yeah.
Yeah, I guess saying we don't have a plan, we do have a plan. To date, these streets just haven't got bad enough to get into the next 5 years or so. And so, we can certainly revisit the assessment and see if that juggles the priorities. But even though that these ones have maybe deteriorated, I can guarantee you that we're going to find some others in the community that are, the same. So it just depends, but we can certainly look at it.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Kevin. Councilor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to staff. Kevin, over the last couple of years, the city has, in addition to the road capital piece, we've also kind of scaled up our patching efforts, be it potholes or just sections that were in a state of disrepair. There's really no analogous process for sidewalks. That capability is limited largely just to roads, correct?
Yeah, so through your worship, Again, this year, we'll have $500,000 for doing those larger type of patches, which is going to buy us some time to do the full rebuilds, maybe in some areas. The sidewalk piece is a little trickier. We can go in and patch up pieces that might be like a liability, a serious trip hazard or something like that. But there's no real easy way to do just, go in and cap it, much like a road. It's really cut it out, remove it, put it in. So it is a little more costly.
And my next question was actually going to be the resident or the person in this letter does indicate they feel as though alley access and sidewalks have become a safety hazard in some areas. So is that something we are going to assess or have already assessed prior to reaching out to this resident?
Yeah, so I will make sure that engineering's had a look at it, and if it is something that we can do a little bit of asphalt patching just to deal with the liability issue and make sure it's not a danger, we can certainly include that in our patching program. Okay. It doesn't, cosmetically, it doesn't look very good, but it deals with the,
ideally, I as somebody who's been part of this council and the previous council, I know, being able to do those big run projects are I think incredibly impactful. I know 15th Street was, I think, or 112th or the ones we did last year make a huge difference. And it's great to be able to do everything at once. You've got new sidewalks, new street lights, a brand new road. But yeah, there is, I'd rather have it look ugly and functional than ugly and dysfunctional, I guess, is my preference. I guess the matter is just, finding the resources and not, because similar to patching is you're delaying the inevitable, which is a rebuild until such a time as you can marshal the resources to do it properly. But the more patching you do, the less rebuilding you can actually do. So it's kind of a difficult needle to thread.
Yeah. No, we'll definitely take a look and see if there's something that, from a patching perspective, needs to be done.
But I think too, if there's a motion for this before, if you drove that street, it's old there too, right? Like there's sidewalks on both sides. It's like a street that when it gets redone needs to be completely redone and probably just sidewalks on one side. And it's not a high use street either, right? Besides residents. So, all right, I think we got enough information if somebody wants to take a stab at a motion. Councillor Apollonio?
Just a motion for accepting the information or?
To receive for information? Yeah. Okay, do I have a second? Councillor Earl? Is there any discussion around receiving for information? If there's not, I have some. I'm opposed to receiving it for information. I think there's a lot of clear asks in here, and that doesn't give staff direction, in my eyes, to respond to this letter. I think this is a citizen, and he's got some valid concerns. I've, been through there. There is some going into the back alley access, and I know Kevin said that we'll look at it, but I think we need to do more than just receive. I think, Kevin, you probably need some direction, I guess, or, a way that we respond to the citizens, so.
So through your worship, there's a couple options. One is that you can, operationally, we're going to look at it because we've been made aware of it. We're going to do that anyways. But if you want to frame up a response stating that one, obviously crews will look at it and deal with the immediate, perhaps, safety issues. And then number two, reassess the area to see if it slides up the priority list. Okay. You can commit to that, I think is fair.
Okay, so that's an option. If this gets defeated, we could, okay. All right, any other discussion for receiving this information? No? All right, I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed, and it's defeated. Anyone else? Councillor Earl?
As per the Kevin's suggestion, I will move that staff inspect the area with an eye towards addressing any immediate safety concerns and proceed to reassess the area noted in this letter to help decide whether or not its status or priority as far as remediation is changed at all.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick? Any discussion? Brenda, are you? Oh, yeah, go ahead, Councillor. I thought you were already green.
So as, I mean, and it's not, I guess, a concern, but something is, are we inadvertently going to create a run on staff capacity by everybody who wants their road reassessed? And not that, I mean, I don't, that's just kind of where my mind sometimes goes with things like this. I don't want to deter people if there's a need from reaching out to us. But it's.
Yeah, so through your worship, I understand. Sure, everybody could, from every street in town could submit a letter, asking for this. I think the reality is we'll take a look at this. Devin and I have already chatted, a few weeks back about that we probably should be looking to redo the pavement condition assessment in the community because it's been 6-7 years, whatever. So really, I think what we can commit to folks is, we'll budget for that for next year to redo the assessment piece. And then that will really look at the entire community and rejig the priorities, across the board, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? No? Brenda, am I good to, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed, and it's carried. It was all in favor? Okay. Next, we have 7.2 letter from Mr. Mike Bernier, MLA, Peace River South. Received April 6, 2023, regarding a request for a letter of support to create a division of practice in the South Peace. I'll give a little background before there's a motion. Just this is something that the doctors of British Columbia or the South Peace have been trying to do for 5 years now. It is something that is already currently in the North Peace. So it's just something that they're trying to get a division of practice in the South Peace. So this is just a letter of support for Mr. Bernier to have kind of like a tool in his toolbox when he goes to for this initiation. So it's a little bit of his background on it. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. I will move that we provide said letter of support.
Thank you. Have a second. Councillor Kemp. Any discussion?
I probably look into a bit more detail about what this all entails, but I think if it's something that can be can aid our local physicians in their efforts to provide health care and recruit and retain, all the good.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I will call this motion to vote. And one more. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 7.3 of email from Mr. Reed Bailey, Land Use Planner, BC Ministry of Agriculture and Food. Received April 14th, 2023, regarding a request for feedback on cannabis production facilities in the ALR. Anybody? Councillor Earl?
So the letter itself is requesting that we provide feedback by June 14th. Have you, as in your capacity, your worship, as the delegate to the PRRD, had any, because this is more, I mean, there's a bit of ALR land in the city, to the best of my knowledge, but most of this is going to impact our neighbors in the regional district. Have you had any indication from them what they're?
No, we haven't had this letter come there yet, but we haven't had any cannabis facilities in our area, so we would have no information to report anyways. So we could either receive for information or send a letter back saying we don't have any information to give them.
Okay.
Thinking that would be correct, right, Kevin? Yeah.
Yeah, through your worship, you're correct. We don't have any experience with this. We do have some ALR lands within the city limits. Not aware of any of these facilities, obviously within the city, but even in proximity to the city. You know, staff could certainly look at, the feedback, anything that, but I just don't know what we can offer because we don't have any experience with it, and I'm not anticipating any of these developments anytime soon, but.
All right, well then, in which case I'll move that we send a letter indicating there's no feedback at this time.
Okay. Have a second? Councillor Apollonio? Discussion? No, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, we have 7.4, letter from Ms. Caitlin Treble, Program Director, and Ms. Jana Coleman Easingwood, Executive Director of the Nowickan Friendship Center, received on April 17th, 2023, regarding a request for permission to place a Spirit Phone therapeutic monument in NAR Park. I guess a bit of info before, if somebody wants to put a motion for it. I just did a little bit of research, had some conversations with Kevin just around this and where it's placed. I strongly believe that it's a great idea and a great initiative they're doing, and it's an amazing thing to be able to offer that to somebody. We're not sure if the NAR Park is the right place for it. A couple of reasons. One is, they did say in here they'll maintain it. It's not close to their properties. Two is if it is a booth that is a place for people to mourn and, to have some time to themselves and to reflect, being on the busiest street in Dawson Creek on the corner might not be the best spot for it. The NAR Park is a very, busy part of the city. It's crossroads, the streets, the highways, the whole program. So, if there was another spot, personally, I would, think we would look at. But, they have a very, the Nowickan Friendship Center. They have a very nice piece of property that is, with a river, new bridge, like forests, like it's very beautiful and seems like it would be a better fitted place for, people to go for that reason. But I haven't spoke to either Jana or Caitlin, so I don't know if there was more to why they wanted it on NAR Park, but that's kind of the reason. And then also, so it's kind of a little bit of a, thought process on it. I don't know if you wanted to add any to that, Kevin. I know we're having, some big issues in the city right now with our bus stops and, some vulnerable folks that are using them in a, not the way they're intended to be using it. It's adding some, staff time and RCMP time to deal with. And, there's also the possibility, I don't want to say no to something or say I'm against something because of that, but there is also that to think about.
So through your worship, a couple of challenges that you've identified is, yes, we've seen people using structures like this, like the bus stops, for shelter. So that could be something that we're faced with, where bylaw is called to deal with it, as we are with bus stops and other sites. The other is if council agrees to it and they provide the phone booth on our property and they agree to look after it, that's great, but they will be required to have some insurance in the city's name for that as well, just in case anything was ever to happen. It's their phone booth on our property. Of course, we would have some liability because it's our property, so that's normal course as well to have that insurance. So just something to be aware of.
So I guess if council was to consider that, like maybe a motion to reach out to have a discussion with them about that stuff, or do you see? Or because I guess there's a request, I guess we could just approve or not. Yeah. Okay. From council, Councilor Earl.
Charlie now.
So it does sound, Your Worship, that maybe some more consultation with Nowakin is required for us to make a decision. I think it's a lovely sentiment and a great initiative. I don't know if NAR Park, for the reasons you cited, and also just the aesthetic fit is maybe it might stick out like a bit of a sore thumb, and if the goal is to give people a quiet place to reflect, maybe not the best fit. So I don't know if the motion should direct staff or yourself in conjunction with staff to reach out to them, but I'd be willing to make that motion.
Would it be staff, or could we have
or invite them in for a delegation? I don't know which would be more appropriate.
Your Worship, the mayor and I have a meeting coming with Janice, so maybe it's an opportunity to speak about that well, and maybe just discuss council's concerns and see if there is, maybe a different location or something we're not aware of.
So
should we
table it?
Well, I guess we could either motion to defer, but I think if council is not okay with it being in that location, that's what the request is. So if we were to put a motion forward, not approving it for that location, it doesn't take it off the table, it can come back?
No, so through your worship, you can certainly make a motion that this, not in favor of this location, and direct staff and myself and yourself to have a discussion about an alternative location.
Okay. So with that in mind, I will move that we deny the request to place it at the NAR Park and direct staff to follow up with Nowakin to see if there's not a more appropriate location to place it.
Thank you. I have a second. Councillor Apollonio. Any discussion? I will call that motion to, Councillor Apollonio.
Oh, yeah, I agree with Councillor Earl. I think much better if we could ask them for more consultation and more a better place to put that spirit booth to make it more meaningful to them.
Okay. Thank you. Other discussion? All right, I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It was carried. Was there one opposed? Okay. I had red flash on my screen. So our next order of business is 8 reports. We have 8.1, report number 23-059 from the General Manager of Development Service regarding the BC Transit Annual Operating Agreement 2023-2024. Councillor Sudnick.
I'll move that report number 23-059 from the General Manager, Development Services regarding BC Transit Annual Operating Agreement 2023-2024 be received. Further, that Council approve the BC Transit Annual Operating Agreement effective from April 1st, 2023 to March 31st, 2024 at the proposed cost of $417,717.
Thank you. To have a second. Councillor Apollonio. Discussion? Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess this is the first time the BC Transit agreement is coming before a couple of my newer colleagues. It is for a year. So I think, and I'm sure Councillor Parslow will regret having missed this conversation, as it's near and dear to his heart. But I know there has been a recognition, and certainly to some degree or another, most of us have either committed to or at the very least recognized that how we operate public transit in Dawson Creek is less than ideal, to put it politely. So I guess if this is a one-year agreement, that if we're serious about revisiting the issue of public transit in Dawson Creek, this would give us, designate a one-year mark for us to figure out another solution. I've on numerous occasions articulated my frustration with BC Transit, the agreement, how it operates, and at a local level, the demand for transit and how, so I'm not going to revisit that, but $417,000, and I know over several years the cost will continue to escalate, while ridership, to the best of my knowledge, remains fairly stagnant, if not in decline. So it's something we are going to have to look into. I'll support it, the motion on the floor in this instance, because this will take some time to land upon a new arrangement. And I do believe we do have a 6-month out clause if we do happen upon something more appropriate in the meantime. But I think it would be useful for if we're serious as a council about moving to a different public transit model for this to, this is your 1 year notice, or I guess 11 months notice, given how the agreement operates. And I just wanted to invite any comments from staff on this, as I know this will be, I think, Kevin's first time as the CAO dealing with this, if he has any insights he'd like to offer us.
So through your worship, I just wanted to highlight the 6-month notice, because so we do an annual operating agreement annually with BC Transit. They typically give us a 3-year budget that's rolling, and then we do the annual operating agreement. You're correct, that costs will continue to escalate. Inflationary pressures and everything will cause that to happen. Previous councils have directed staff to work with BC Transit, and we did so, and we altered routes to try and reduce costs, which we did. But again, that's really only a temporary measure until costs continue to rise. So there is a 6-month notice that we must give transit if for some reason we want to terminate. So that is something to be mindful of. Another thing to be mindful of is that as bad as transit may appear or is in the community, that we are only paying for half of it. Transit's paying for the other half approximately. So there really is not a private type of alternative where we're going to pay full costs that's going to be more economical and a higher level of service than we get right now. So that's always been the challenge. But is there a different way of delivering a service that may target simply the most vulnerable and the ones that need it the most? There probably is. That's why I anticipated to see more discussion around this item, and specifically strategic planning, but there wasn't a lot. But so yeah, I mean, again, I think does something probably need to change? Yes. Do we know exactly what it is? Not yet.
Okay, thank you. I think it's I agree with I think Councillor Earl, and you brought up Kevin. One thing I think though too, when we say like the ridership is declining, I think taking the system that we did have and then cutting it back, like we've created a system that doesn't work. So you can take a bus transit somewhere and you can't get a ride back. So we're actually, you know, as much as numbers are down on it because of the system we have. It doesn't work. You know, it's, you know. So Councillor Earl, did you want to add to?
I just wanted to ask, through you to staff, Your Worship, in previous years, representatives from BC Transit have either shown up in person or sent us a report that kind of detailed ridership, per capita costs, how we fared against peer communities. And I know I got it early in my first term, and it certainly kind of helped inform the discussion. And at that time, we were spending twice as much on transit, and you know, ridership was still, I think it was, you know, 1% a year decline at that time, and had been for 10 years. So it was, it's just a really tough file to find a happy middle ground on, because I think back in, 2007, the Council of the Day, based on the suggestion from BC Transit, significantly scaled up their spend with the intent of increasing ridership, and that never materialized. So it's hard to know, you know, what's the correct spend. And
So through your worship, if council wishes, and you're right, we've had presentations in the past. You know, if council wishes, staff can certainly reach out to Transit and request that they give us an up-to-date presentation on the status of a number of aspects, and provides an opportunity for council to ask some of those questions.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, I will call us to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, we have 8.2, report number 23-060 from the Development Service Manager regarding 1608 95th Avenue encroachment application. Oh, Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation, the report number 23-060 from the Development Services Manager regarding 1608 95th Avenue encroachment application be received. Further, the council authorized the owner of 1608 95th Avenue to encroach 3.23 meters into the city-owned boulevard between 94th and 95th Avenue for the purpose of a 7.5 meter by 7.53 meter garage identified as new shop on the surveyor's certificate attached to this report. Further, that the encroachment be permitted for the lifetime of the building. Further, that the owner provide and maintain liability insurance at the level required by the city. Further, that the mayor and the corporate officer be authorized to sign the required encroachment agreement to be registered on title through a Section 219 covenant.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Councillor Earl? I guess just to talk a little bit to this, I don't know if I had a couple things. I went and took a look at this site, but yeah, it's a tough one because people in today's world know that you need to get permits first. So when I went up there and looked, I then soon realized that it looked like the owner of this property is a construction company who would know that because there was multiple vehicles on their yard that were construction. So there's a part of me that actually wants to decline this because, you know, I believe, you know, I can't assume what somebody's intent was, but it looks like the intent was to build this and then, you know, better to ask for forgiveness after. And, you know, it's pretty clear, you know, that this person should have known that there was a permit that was required. But yeah, just kind of my 2 cents on it. It's kind of hard. It's a tough one, right? And then the other part of it is our penalty that we have with the city is $150 for somebody that doesn't obey it. So I think, you know, regardless of this, I think, you know, we might need to research a little bit into our building department to make that penalty a little bit more severe so people follow the system. So, Councillor Earl?
yeah, Your Worship, my thoughts exactly. I was going to inquire further about the cost differential for somebody who does everything the right way and complies with the existing protocols and somebody who, does, as you said, better to ask forgiveness than permission. And these issues are always frustrating. And I'm not sure who the person was who did it, but I know in some instances, it very much it gives the appearance that people are, if you didn't know you needed a permit to build and then to find out the person is in construction suggests that it is simply, it's very frustrating. And as much as I understand, in the grand scheme of things, this one-off might not be a big deal. The concern is the more we do these one-offs, the more the message is received in the public that it does make more sense to just ask forgiveness than permission, because you'll get what you want, and for an extra $150 you didn't have to deal with a building inspector while you were actually doing the project. So just really frustrating. And whatever the vote is, I do agree with his worship that we need to revisit the late fees associated with someone who does something like this to make it hurt enough that people think twice about doing it, I guess, is my take. Is, obviously $150 wasn't enough of a deterrent for this person not to do this. And not only that they built a facility without the proper permitting, but that they encroached onto public lands. Adds another dimension, right? So,
And I think to add to that a little bit too is just, doing it this way, just the staff time that just went into researching this, and, the time that cost us is a lot more than $150. But, when somebody's not following the system, they're not thinking about it's not fair that the rest of the taxpayers are paying our staff's wages to dig into something that's could have been and should have been handled the right way. So, Kevin, I don't know if you want to add. I guess one maybe is there only two alternatives here? One, we approve this. I mean, there's other properties that have been grandfathered in on that area. It's not out in a back alley. The other is the only option really to do this recommendation or to decline it and they rip it down? Are those the only two options?
So through your worship, couple things, and just I wanted to highlight that this particular laneway, there's a couple nuances, and that's why you see the recommendation in front of you that you do. But so there are a number of garages that over a long period of time have encroached into the laneway. And I wanted to speak to why this one is a bit different. Is a lot of those garages that were built that already encroach into the laneway were probably built before we put specific processes in place to try and avoid this exact issues. Probably about 15 years ago or more, we were running into a number of issues where folks were constructing homes, garages, only to find out after it was all done that they were either encroaching on the setback or, worst case scenario, maybe even across the property line. And so we implemented in our permitting process that they required a survey prior to pouring concrete, so that they could get things in place. They'd come get a legal surveyor in, and before you did anything permanent, we would know whether they were encroaching the setback or worse, across the property line. And so, those things are there for this exact reason, to avoid this exact situation. The individual that built this knows that. They're in the business of building garages. They're also in the business of getting stop work orders for not getting permits. So this is not a surprise to this individual. They know the process. So going to your options, I believe there are only two options. One is either we legalize it in some form of an agreement, which is presented to you in the report, or a requirement for them to meet the bylaw, which would require them to dismantle and move the garage to the proper setbacks and everything. So I see that as your two options. The reason that we put the recommendation in front of you that we did is because we weren't sure if council wanted to pursue, the more onerous requirement in light of the older pre-existing garages that already encroach. But it's not so much about the encroachment. In my mind, it's about the process or lack of process and lack of regard for the process that is probably a bit of an issue. So, but
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I think like you said, it's about the process, but to me, I when looking at decisions, it's not always about the cost, it's about the principle, right? And I guess one question is if this individual would have came to us prior to, it would have came to council, would have we sold that portion? Because I mean, obviously, it's not accessible, right? Because of the other properties around it. It's been clear that in the past that people have built in that same line. So there's no city access to that. Like we didn't use it anyways. So we probably would have, I don't know, but we might have recommended that would you sell it or would it just be an easement?
so through your worship, we would not sell it. Brenda would really be unhappy with me if we were to recommend that. No, so we would not look to sell any portion of the land. Had someone come ahead of time, certainly an option that would have been presented to council would have been, hey, there are other garages that are encroaching. You could go through the process. You could do exactly how we're trying to legalize it now. That would have been an option, but that would have given you the option at the front end as opposed to being put in a bit more of a difficult position that you are today.
Okay. So my other thought of that, Kevin, is we say we decline this and we ask him to rip it down, and then I would assume the process is he would take legal actions. I would assume, is that where it could go to court? Because I think if it got to that point and it's clear that other properties have been allowed, would that be the next process, or is there any, I don't know how this works, that if we, that's our policy, we say no,
Yeah, so through your worship, if council decides that they're not willing to grant this, then we would give the owner notice to remove it. And if he didn't do so, then we likely would have, we'd probably have to get an injunction because some of it's on his property, some of it's on our property. It would get a little bit messy, I'm sure, to deal with, but ultimately he'd be responsible, or they'd be responsible for the removal. I don't believe that they have any entitlement or that the city's any additional liability because of the other garages that exist. Those are a pre-existing situation that were grandfathered prior to having these processes in place that are meant to avoid this exact issue.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor, it's a tough one, I guess, so if this gentleman would have came prior to, that would have just came to council and we would have done it.
Yeah, through your worship, had they come first and said, I'd like to build a garage like all these other encroaching garages, they would have went to Bill in development. They would have had a discussion. At that time, staff would have decided whether they recommend that or not. They would have looked at the various factors. And it possibly could have come in front of council as an option for approval.
Okay. Councillor Apollonio.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to ask, for example, if we will not allow this encroachment, and of course, as you mentioned before, there will be might be ending in legal battles. So in case, for example, this resident said that, how about the other resident? So are we going to apply the same thing, or because it happened way before in our term?
So through your worship, because they're pre-existing and dating back a number of years, they're grandfathered, essentially in. We can't can't really do anything about those ones in the past, but we can certainly deal with the ones moving forward, right? And that was kind of the intent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Guess you can't probably look into a crystal ball and answer this, but if this wasn't to get approved, and what would be like the amount of staff time that would go into to declining this, going through that process of getting it moved, like all of that, like are we talking tying bills, time up, like do you have any idea what the cost of that would be to the city? No. So it would be a bit.
So through your worship, yeah, I mean, obviously, anytime you're going to get legal involved and you're talking about possible injunctions and yeah, there's going to be a spend for sure. The question is that spend and the result going to eliminate this from happening again? Or the alternative is, like you indicated earlier, is that we can look at, it doesn't deal with this one, but moving forward again, you could look at a stiffer penalty for somebody that decides to do this.
Then one last question. So when you do this proper, you apply for a building permit, you have that process, you go around, like you have the electrical, the gas inspectors come, so there's fees to all that. So by doing it this way, is this gentleman saving some fees? Because $150 for a fee doesn't sound like a big penalty, but does he still have to pay all those other fees?
So my understanding, and Bill will correct me if I've missed something, but we have asked the individual, now that we're aware of it and we know it's been partially constructed without a building permit, the individual is required to get an engineer assessment done to cover off all that, but I'll look to Bill and see if I'm correct.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah, through your worship, there were engineering fees that were incurred by the owner because we can't retroactively go and inspect work that's already been done. So they did engage an engineering firm. We received that report the end of March. Looks like the structure, in the report, the structure meets 2018 BC Building Code, and that's why the report was brought forth at this time. We did receive the survey certificate back in, I believe, August or July, and it's been trying to work with the owner to get to compliance. There are, in this area between 15th Street and 17th Street, there's 44 properties involved. The report mentioned we'll be bringing those properties to a future committee of the whole report, so we'll be looking at that then. But there were the engineering fees at the cost to the owner. There will be the building permit fees, the penalty for not attaining a building permit. Plus, they'll be incurring the costs, if approved by council, to register the 219 covenant on title. So all that's incurred by the owner. But there was staff time, considerable staff time, in preparing the report and getting them to a form of compliance.
Just one other question while you're up here, Bill. How many scenarios like this happen annually where somebody, not building a fence or something, but somebody that builds a substantial project like a garage that has concrete, that they don't get building permits? I feel like in today's world, everybody knows you need one, but is this something that happens 2 or 3 times a year, or is it,
It's a good question. We're dealing with it on not a consistent basis, but it does come up. We work with the owners if they're not aware of the process and spend that educational time to let them know what the process is and work with them. Once they're aware of the permitting process and they don't follow it, then we look at issuing fines and that sort of thing. So,
okay, thank you. Councillor Earl, did you have?
No, Your Worship, that was.
Okay. Any other discussion? Anybody? Everybody's pretty clear. All right. Thank you, Bill. I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried 3-2. Councillor Apollonio and myself were opposed. Oh, sorry?
In a motion, would it be appropriate for, if we were so inclined, to provide direction to staff to revisit the fees and charges and penalties associated with those who construct things without a permit? At this point, would it be appropriate,
Yeah.
or
Are we able to make that
do
motion
you want
now,
that direction,
Brenda?
Kevin?
Okay, we are.
Okay.
So if you'd like to make that.
I
Councillor.
will move that staff bring back report to council with some options and recommendations about increasing fees, penalties, and fines associated with late permitting or those who don't follow appropriate processes around constructing things.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kemp? Any discussion or clarification you need, Kevin, for that? All right, I will. Yeah, okay, I'll call that motion to vote. Am I good to do that, Brenda? You are quick. The vote is closed and it's carried. I'm just going to take a 5-minute recess and come back. Leave the whole for Monday, April 24th back to order. I'm just going to vary the agenda and go down to 10.3. So I think Councillor Kemp will have to excuse herself, but it's had a delegation request from South Peace Soccer Association, request for a change to soccer field use fees. And their ask was if we would consider or look at waiving the fees for the next 3 years and also revisit the fee structure, which I do know we probably don't need a motion for the fee structure. Maybe let Kevin talk to it because I think we are revisiting that this year. It's in the plans, but Kevin did have a little bit of information too, so sorry if I forgot to ask if you read through it.
No,
but,
we're good. So through your worship, yes, as you indicated, as council's aware, we have EDS looking at a number of our fees for our facilities, grounds and whatnot. So that'll be something that'll be coming back to council later this year. And I think as we indicated when we started that process, it was for the very reasons that we hear the association here today talking about that our fees are higher than neighboring communities and that, and you know, staff has heard that as well, and part of the reason why we felt it was time to just revisit and see if our current rates are still where they need to be. So a couple points for information that were brought up and questioned. So we do have a cutting schedule out there. So as far as mowing, every Tuesday and Friday is when we cut grass on the soccer fields, minimum 16 hours per week of mowing. Watering schedule is every morning by automatic timer for 4 a.m. We did have a couple of water breaks last year, which would have interrupted that, but we certainly should have had watering outside of those breaks. The costs that the city incurs for just maintaining the soccer park is $52,000 annually for the season. And that's based on the last kind of a 3-year average that we looked back on. And then just looking at what we had charged for fields over a couple of examples, we had in 2019 it was $12,700 and in 2022 it was $19,000. So you know, looking at those numbers, we recover, you know, plus or minus a third of what our expenses are for the soccer fields, just for context for council.
Kevin, is that similar to like other facilities? Is that like a formula or is that just like, would the arena be that high?
30% is kind of I hate to say it's a rule of thumb, but it's in the ballpark that you see in recreation facilities, at least that we've been dealing with over time. That's always been kind of the target, so to speak. I guess I should say it's not uncommon. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little bit less. But the reality is every rec facility, whether it's a field or a pool or an arena, we are not going to get full cost recovery. We're going to price ourselves right out of the market if we do that, or try to achieve that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. So just to follow up on you mentioned the mowing schedule was Tuesday and Friday. Over the course of a season, the frequency with which you'd have to mow a field would presumably change. I mean, I know with my yard, I mow a lot more in the first half of the summer than the last half. Does the mowing schedule get adjusted accordingly, or is it just that's a schedule, or the soccer pitch in particular needs to be maintained to a certain level so that schedule stays consistent throughout the year?
Yeah, so through your worship, I mean, I can't say with certainty, but just going off what I'm told, but if we're watering it every day, we're going to have a pretty consistent growth for most of the season. So I assume by staff having that schedule that they feel that is adequate. Again, that's a discussion that staff may have to have with junior soccer and see if indeed it is adequate. But right now, what I'm being told is that's the 2 days a week.
Just one, before there's more questions, I think like there's a clear ask on the table here. So if there's some questions to staff to help with the motion, let's keep to that. I know there was other parts of the presentation with communication and stuff, but that's not what this is for right now. So, Councillor Sudnick?
I think this is a okay question in regards to that. So you said the cost to maintain is $50,000 approximately per season. Is it a soccer season, a summer season, a recreation? What is that time frame?
So through your worship, that is basically the summer season that we have, because we have to maintain it, from the time it really starts to get growing right until fall. Because if we just stop mowing at the end of soccer season, let's say that's the end of June, and we don't go back, we're going to have some problems. So it's maintained throughout the growing season, I guess I should say.
Okay, thank you.
It's just one question to, if there is a motion to move forward. So one, we have a grant, budget allowance that we could touch on a little bit. The other is I think like the South Peace Soccer Society has been put in a, pretty tough position from some things that have happened the last couple of years. So, I don't know if this is like a permanent request. It's just something that they're asking to help get going again, because they're in a tough position and they actually weren't going to have soccer this year. So, but yeah, I don't know, like if we can touch, their request is now from $12,000 to $19,000 per year for 3 years is I guess the request. So because 12 is a low and 19 is a high, what do we budget? 12?
For revenue, Your Worship? We'd have to take a look and see what we have budgeted for revenue. What we heard from the delegation this morning was they were anticipating approximately 14,000, I believe.
Okay. So then I guess the other part is if we say we were allowed to allow that, where does that money come from? Like, do we have access? Because I think our grant fund is only 12,000.
12,500 is I believe,
Total?
our grant fund. So currently we've spoken or utilized some of that. I believe we have around 10,000 remaining for this year. So that's available to you, but then that eliminates your ability to provide any grant funding for any subsequent requests that come throughout the year. The challenge is that this is a fees and charges bylaw. We don't have council can't just simply waive the fees. Your options are just to provide it in the way of a grant, or you'd have to amend the bylaw, which you can do for a period of time.
Sorry, I missed that first part, Kip.
You could amend the bylaw.
So we could either amend the bylaw.
It's an actual bylaw change. So you can't do it today, but you could request staff come back with an amendment to the fees and charges bylaw specifically for soccer fields that would reduce the fee to zero if that's what you wanted. And for this summer and next summer, you could put a bookends on it as well. So that would be another way of doing it.
And then the
But
first
then you're
part is-
foregoing the revenue, right? So that just drives up the operational costs.
Yeah. And the first part, you said council can't waive it because of the policy, right?
Sorry?
The first part, you said council can't waive the fees because of the
Council,
policy?
no, because it's a bylaw, you can't just simply waive it. You have to amend a bylaw, and there's a process for the bylaw.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying, Councillor Earl.
So just, sorry to keep asking for points of clarification. Maybe this would have been better directed to the delegation. So I noted the 12 to 19,000 in fees charged back. That was in total for the soccer fields, or that was just for the youth soccer? Because if I recall correctly, the delegation indicated that the registrants and the revenue raised up to this point was just inclusive of youth soccer and didn't include the adult up to this point. Okay,
So
thank
through
you.
your worship, what I have in my notes is that in revenue source for the fields and the associate youth and adult. So in 2019, not all fields were booked. However, in 2022, all fields, they did book all the fields. So that's why the billing's a little lower in 19 is because apparently not all the fields were booked, but that includes both youth and adult according to the notes that I have.
Okay. Yeah, my next question was going to be that discrepancy. Is it account for in a difference in bookings, or is it just inflationary pressures? that
It's a difference in
Okay.
bookings.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. All right, and is there anybody that would like to?
So through your worship, just Terry was just pointing out to me that we budget, we anticipate $20,000 in revenue. That's what we have in our budget for revenue for soccer fields.
This year.
Yep.
So the only options are from, like council's point is we can't waive it. So A is to either give a grant in lieu or,
Amend
or
the
not
bylaw.
do anything, or I guess also too, we are reviewing the fees and policies this year. So it maybe wouldn't make sense if there was something not, to do it for 3 years because we don't know how the next couple of years are going to look.
Yeah, through your worship.
That's reviewed.
Obviously, yes, we're going through the process of looking at the fees, but I'm pretty confident they're not going to come back with zero.
No.
So depending on what council wants to do, then that's how you would move forward on that.
Okay. Councillor Earl. Oh, sorry.
Sorry to keep inquiring. Do we have a breakout of what we charge, how much revenue we get from youth versus adults, or is it all just one lump sum in there?
I don't have it in front of me. I'll ask Aaron if something that we do have, we may not have it with us, might be able to get it.
Through your worship, yes, I have that. It was 9,000 from youth and the 4,000 was from adults. So, but I did lump sum them together because they are the same organization now, whereas in the past they were not. So
That was 2022?
that was 2022, as well as I provided 2019 as that with COVID and that they were not running their soccer. So.
Okay. And then, so the budget this year for 20,000, is that 14,000 youth and 6,000 adult? Or do you probably don't break that out?
No.
No. Okay.
I can though, if you need it.
I don't know if there's anybody that would like to. Councillor Sutnick?
Just a question on that bylaw amendment. What would that need to look like?
So through your worship, staff would bring a report could theoretically bring it maybe to the next meeting if we could fit it in. And they would go first 3 readings, and then if approved, it would come to the subsequent meeting after that for adoption. And it would simply be just a text amendment that would say that it was changing the fees from X to Y. Correct, Brenda?
Yeah, through your worship, there is an alternative that you could call a special meeting to fast track that, if you would like. Yeah.
Okay.
But there still would be 2 meetings required for bylaw amendments.
I guess the one thing too, I mean, it's, I know we're looking at our fees and services this year, so part of that's going to be dealt with, but what risk is there if we, soccer's, to me, has got different circumstances because of a bit of the past, but, there's also a lot of other user groups in our community that would like to have no fees, right? So, if minor hockey or figure skating or speed skating or baseball have, a couple tough years, I guess it's tough, right? Because I feel for soccer and I know what this group has been through, and we've met with them. Kevin and I and staff met with them, and they weren't going to have soccer. Like it was, they were in a really bad position. So, I got some empathy for it, but there's also all of that, right? So, Councillor Sednick?
Now, I guess just the question is what our option is today to provide either a solution or an answer
Sure.
that would help them today instead of dragging this out for 2 more meetings, which would then be through the soccer season.
So through your worship, your options today are to deny it, or to provide a grant for some amount, $10,000 or less, because that's what you have available to you in your grant budget, or to direct staff to prepare a bylaw amendment on the fees and charges to bring forward, and to provide. You would need to provide staff with some direction if that was to completely waive the fees, i.e. make the fee 0 for a set period of time.
So just for clarification, if that was the route that council decided to do, we have $20,000 of income in our budget. So where, you would have to readjust the budget and take that 20,000 from somewhere.
So, yeah, we're going to lose that revenue opportunity, and we're going to have to absorb that in other areas, and going to have to watch the budget very closely, and may have to, we will have to take that from somewhere. That means there will be a reduction in something somewhere. But again, as I talked to you earlier, we have to do this often where we have to manage budgets in a bigger envelope. And it's just like snow plowing. We get more snow than anticipated. We spend more on snow, means we're going to have to try and save somewhere else. And that would be the result here, is we're going to have to try and save somewhere else if this is what council wants to do. And then for next year, we just have to budget 0 revenue, if that's what council was, what their mindset was. And that means you'd have a $20,000 increase to your operational budget.
But I guess too, because their ask was for the 3 years, if, say, council decided to move a motion forward just for this year and we could look at it again, is that possible? Or because their ask was 3 years, we have to stick to that?
No, you can,
Okay.
You're able to do whatever you like, and you can do it 1 year at a time, revisit it. You could ask the group to come back and report back to you and how the season went and how things are looking, and if maybe the situation has changed, maybe it's better.
Okay. I don't know, is that enough information for somebody to make a motion?
Guys, you're missing Charlie now.
Councillor Apollonio came in late to the party.
Go for it, Councillor Apollonio.
Okay, Councillor Apollonio.
Well, I think I'm referring to from the last statement of Kevin. Maybe I'm not sure if just to really no fee for next year, but maybe for a year for the meantime. So at least we can, if we are really constrained in the budget, so is that okay?
So
So through your worship, is that, just to be clear, that would be to amend the bylaw for 1 year?
I don't know, the request maybe? Or because I think they're requesting for 3-year no user fee, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if your intent in the motion is to waive it for 1 year, then it would have to be a motion to amend the bylaw.
Okay.
So if that's what you want to,
Okay.
if that's what you like, that's what your intent is?
Well, I think I'm confused because if the proponent could just only like be one, oh yeah, I think that the bylaw, yeah, I think to address the bylaw or to change the bylaw.
So, okay, so a motion to amend the bylaw for 1 year term. Do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick? Brenda, I don't know, do you need some clarification? No? Okay, so the motion, just to be clear, is to direct staff to amend the bylaw for a 1 year term to waive the fees for South Beach Soccer Fields. Okay.
So through your worship, just to make sure we're clear on that, so that waiving of fee or the changing of the fees to 0 would only be for South Beach Junior Soccer. I'm just trying to think ahead of if a private individual come along, wanted to run something, if it's somebody other than South Beach Junior Soccer, we're going to charge for the fields. Just want to be clear.
That would
So
be
we'll
what,
make sure that's, I don't know if we can specifically do that, but we'll look at it, identifying, because again, you don't want to open it up maybe to some user I'm not anticipating at the moment, but there might be somebody out there.
yeah. Well, I think the intent is that because it's about trying to help South Beach Junior Soccer get back on their feet and get going.
Just so we're clear, yep.
So should we make an amendment, or just a friendly amendment to the motion?
That was just a clarification.
Okay. Okay. Did you want to speak to that? No. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Worship. And question to you to staff. So with the impending updated Recreation Cultural Services Master Plan, would this 1 year window be enough time, do we anticipate, for the fee recommendations to be brought back with respect to what we're going to be charging moving forward?
So through your worship, I think we're anticipating this fall that the fees and charges will be, so this fall we'll be bringing back proposals on what EDS has found and what their recommendations would be for any alterations to fees.
Okay, and in the fee, just to make, I assume Brenda would have shut us down if it weren't the case, but we do have the ability to provide for one specific organization in the bylaw revision, like as you asked. Okay.
Through your worship, I believe so. I mean, this is it's a nonprofit group. It's not
Yeah,
it's not a
and-
business. That would be a different
Normally, I maybe have some apprehension around, but to his worship's point, these are, specific. I think emergent in some respects circumstances between COVID and the aforementioned challenges. Once again, I do have some concern about creating this precedent because there's a lot of nonprofits who had a rough couple of years, and I guess it's something we're going to have to potentially be inviting upon ourselves and dealing with on a case-by-case basis. So
through your worship, I know already that we have 2 groups coming to the next meeting to talk about the fees at the arena and summer ice. That's already booked. Just letting you know.
Okay. Yeah. Good to know.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Any other discussion? I guess one just to you, Kevin, and I think it's been answered, but I just need to clarify in my own brain. So if this goes through, like, besides the optics to the community or other user groups that they might be able to come in if they're struggling, there's no risk, like we're not setting,
for other user groups and other venues, we're just going to vary just that one part.
Yeah, through your worship, council has always got the ultimate decision, so it's up to you. You're not bound by making one decision that you now have to make every decision the same. Each decision is made on its own merits, and that's really what you have to look at in this case. This is what I'm hearing from council, is you believe this is a unique situation, perhaps different than some others, and that's why you're making the decision you're making.
And you're confident that if this is approved, that you can find $20,000 somewhere in the operating
We'll have to.
budget? Yeah. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah.
All right, if there's no other discussion, everybody understands the motion? Did you want me to read it back? Okay, maybe I'll just have Brenda read it back, or Joe. Their voices are nicer than mine.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, the motion reads that the request from the South Peace Soccer Association be received. Further, that council directs staff to amend the fees and charges bylaw to waive the user fees charged to the South Peace Junior Soccer Association for 1 year being 2023.
Good. All right, I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Thank you. You going to grab Amy? Or Councillor Kemp, sorry. Thank you, ladies. All right, our next order of business is 8.3, report number 23-061. See you, gentlemen. 23061 from the corporate officer regarding 2023 policy review. I think there's 4 separate motions in this one, or maybe 5 actually. Somebody like to start us off? Councillor Kempf?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move recommendation number 1, that report number 23-061 from the corporate officer regarding 2023 policy review be received. Further, that the 4 policies identified for review in the April 24th, 2023 meeting be considered individually.
Do I have a second? Councillor Earl, any discussion? I'll call this to vote. Oh, gotta put your card back in. Do we have to redo it? No, okay. Look at that. Vote is closed and it's carried. All right, did you want to keep going, Councillor Kemp?
Thank you, Your Worship. For recommendation number 2, it has, due to TC Energy looking for more beneficial ways to provide assistance to community organizations within Dawson Creek, that council formally discontinue the Kindness Meters program and repeal the Kindness Meters policy.
Do I have a second? Councillor Earl, is there any discussion? I think I'll add a little bit to this. Just wanted to once again thank TC Energy for I think it was, can't remember, 7 or 8 years of doing the kindness meter. And I think there was, I can't remember the amount, $16,000 or around there. So I just wanted to give a quick, another thank you to TC Energy for the program. And this was also their idea, part of it, to repeal the policy. So, yeah. All right, I will call this to vote. Vote is closed, it's carried. Councillor Kemp?
Thank you, Your Worship. Recommendation number 3, that the city liaison policy be amended with regards to the appointment of councillors as city liaisons at the beginning of each council term by adding the option for the mayor to alter the appointments on an annual basis or as otherwise required. Further, that staff be directed to report back to council with a draft policy amendment for council consideration.
Have a second? Councillor Apollonio? Any discussion? I could add a little bit why I added that, but I think it's kind of self-explanatory. Is just in the policy, it says that we'll appoint at the beginning of each council term, and it didn't say anywhere in there that we could, change it up. And I kind of, whether it's annually or every couple of years, I'd like to mix it all up so everybody gets exposed to different parts of the city. So that's why. All right. If there's no other discussion, I will call this to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Councillor Kemp, run around.
Thank you, Your Worship. In regards to recommendation number 4, that the community awards policy be repealed due to the program being transferred to Community Futures Peasley Yard.
Have a second. Councillor Sudnick, any discussion? I will call this to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Councillor Kemp? Oh, we'll try that again. There we go.
Thank you, Your Worship. In regards to recommendation number 5, that the election official pay rates policy be referred to staff to bring back a report to council with information regarding payment requirements for QP city staff that work additional hours for a municipal election, as well as recommendations regarding increases to the rates currently paid to the election officials.
Have a second. Councillor Apollonio, any discussion? All right, I will call this to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. All right. Next, 8.4, we have report number 23-064 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding the 2022 draft financial statement. Councillor Sudnick?
I'll move the recommendation that report number 23-064 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding 2022 draft financial statements be received. Further, that council approve the 2022 draft financial statements as presented. Further, that the 2022 audited financial statements be brought forward to be formally approved at the council meeting on May 8th, 2023.
Have a second. Councillor Apollonio. Any discussion? Councillor Earl? Or Councillor Sudnick, did you want to speak to it? Or? Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just commend the Finance Department and our auditor for getting this to us in a timely fashion. I guess we're going to have a final report coming back. But one area I would like to highlight for those watching at home and around the world. In summary, the city has improved its net financial asset position from $26.7 million in 2021 to $37 million in 2022. This is the third year that the city is not in a net debt position, meaning that the city is building up sufficient financial assets to settle existing liabilities when they come due.
Thanks, Councillor Earl.
It's in the report. Sorry, I was quoting. So I think that's commendable and worth noting, especially looking at the position we found ourselves in 2018, which was much less enviable than this one. So good work to everyone.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Yeah, and I agree. Well done, team. So good job to everyone. All right. Any other discussion? No, I will call that motion to vote. Vote is closed. That's carried. Next, we have 9 bylaws. 9.1, we have the Growing Communities Capital Reserve Bylaw number 4553, 2023 for adoption. Councillor Earl, second Councillor Sudnick. I'll call that to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, we have 9.2, report number 23-058 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding tax rates bylaw number 4554, 2023 for consideration of first 3 readings. I think there's a recommendation, I think. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation that report number 4554, 2023, from the Chief Financial Officer regarding tax rates bylaw number 4554, 2023, be received. Further, that tax rates bylaw number 4554, 2023, be given first three readings.
A second. Councillor Kempf, any discussion? I will call that to vote. Vote is closed. That's carried. Next, we have 9.3, report number 23-065062 from the corporate officer regarding Parks Amendment Bylaw number 4555, 2023 for consideration of first three readings. Councillor Kempf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation, the report number 23-062 from the corporate officer regarding Parks Amendment Bylaw number 4555, 2023 be received. Further, that Parks Amendment Bylaw number 4555, 2023 be given first three readings.
I have a second. Councillor Sudnick, any discussion? Councillor Apollonio, was that just, okay. All right, I will call this to vote. Vote is closed. That's carried. Next, 10 is Mayor's Business. 10.1 Mayor's Update. Kiwanis Trade Show theme. I was just talking with Joe and Fiona just about, and Chelsea, I guess, a few of us about some themes for some trade shows coming up. And we kind of determined with all the stuff that's going on with Parks and Rec that it would be a good, positive thing to get out there in the community, just with the master plan and some of the things. So that's part of the theme that it will be at the trade show. Obviously not all that we need to talk about, but just kind of what the theme will be. 2 Smile Cookies. I just wanted to quickly mention, this isn't a plug for Councillor McDonald either. This was Tim Hortons is doing their annual Smile Cookies, which the Hospital Foundation is the recipient of that, and it's a big part of what they do. So it's a great program. The reason I was bringing it up is that Mayor and Council wanted to challenge the staff and leadership of the city as a cookie eating contest. So that date will come. Kevin's been preparing himself by snacking every morning on cookies. So, number 3, the Period Promise campaign. I'm just going to let Councillor Kempf speak to that.
Awesome. Thank you, Your Worship. So I just wanted to go over the Period Promise campaign. United Way's Period Promise campaign increases access to free menstrual products in our community so that everyone who menstruates can go to work, get to school, access services, and stay connected to their community. Half of everyone who menstruates in BC have struggled to buy products at some point in their life. More than a quarter have gone through a period without having any menstrual products whatsoever, and not having the product you need when you need it can make staying connected in your community difficult. That means that single mothers are choosing between buying tampons or food for their families and putting together makeshift pads that don't suit their needs. Too many families skip out on social events like going to the library or the pool because it's easier to stay home than risk bleeding in public. People are missing school or leaving work, and too many people face the additional challenges of homelessness, living with a disability, or just the stigma around having a period at all. It's easy to ask for help, or it isn't easy to ask for help or know where to find it. Every donation of tampons, pads, cups, or underwear raises awareness, reduces stigma, and tackles the vulnerability and isolation caused by period poverty. And financial contributions help us purchase products so that it can help people in our community. United Way British Columbia works to support period poverty across our communities, and all donations stay local. So there will be connection sites throughout our community. I know Safeway has one, so during the month of May, you can drop off donations and know that those donations will stay locally within our community. So the campaign runs, like I said, through the month of May. There's buttons around there, and they say, make your period promise today. So I will wear this button for the whole month of May and get the initiative out there so people are aware and what they can contribute to it.
Perfect. Thanks, Councillor Kempf.
You're welcome.
And thank you to United Way and for this initiative, and it's the 3rd year of it, so thank you. Next, West Moberly. We had, West Moberly was in town. We had Chief Roland Wilson and their councillor, Teresa Davis Asher Achuki. and Clarence Wilson in town. Just more of a meet and greet. It was just an amazing day spent with them, just learning a bit about their culture and their treaty group. So it was just a great day. All of council was there. We did a little tour of the city and with staff as well. So it was just a great day and great to get to meet them really and just build that relationship. So next Rotary Club, I was asked to go to the morning, and there's 2 Rotary Clubs in Dawson Creek, a morning and an afternoon club. So I just went there and gave a little bit of a presentation on a little bit about what I'm about, a little bit about what council is, our strategic plan, a little bit, some stuff in the city. So it's just kind of more to bring them up to speed and answered some questions. Rotary Club, like a lot of organizations, do a lot in our community. So I thank them for what they do and what they contribute to our community and making it a better place. And just really listened. They had some questions that I came back with a list for Kevin that I couldn't answer, and we got those back to him. So it was good. So. Also, ARC Resources, I met with Ron Tolley. I can't remember his title. He's one of the leaders or managers for this whole area for ARC Resources. So it was just more an initial meeting and get to know him. I know he's done a lot within the city, and ARC does a lot in the city and have in the past. So I just wanted I've been trying to get out and meet as many and build these relationships with them. So it was a great time, and they do a lot of great things for our community, and a lot of things that they're not about everything they do about getting recognition for. They do a lot of things behind the scenes and to help out and in our community and and to people that are in need. So it was just nice to see, nice to hear what they've been doing, and just to build that relationship. Northern Lights College, Kevin and myself met with Tara Highland and Shantae actually last week. It was just more of an initial meeting. Tara is the Vice President of Academics and Research with Northern Lights College, and she's just newly to that position. I think she's been there 6 weeks, and her husband have moved here. Her husband's a teacher, will probably be looking for a position with the school district. So it was just more of an initial meeting, and just to really continue to build that relationship with Northern Lights College. And I know myself and Kevin have had a couple meetings now with Northern Lights College, and it's really just been about building that relationship and just being on the same page, working together, knowing what they're working on, us sharing with them, and doing some things together, hopefully. So next, I added a thing on here on Thursday. Kevin and myself had a meeting with the Attorney General. We actually had a half an hour set aside that she zoomed in, and it was just Kevin, myself, and her, and Derek from her office on the Zoom call. And we just got an update on all of the things that, well, not everything, because it was only 30 minutes. So we did get an update a bit on some of the questions we asked. We'll send something out because there's a bunch of things at the Attorney General's office with how the Minister of Housing and Minister Farnsworth are working on a pillar system. So she's going to send us out more details on it. There's some stuff about a northern hub, RCMP hub within Prince George that we're going to have access to. That's part of their capital funding going towards that. So that was all good. She's going to share that information with us. And I know since then Kevin's also reached out, or is going to reach out to our staff sergeant here to try and get as much details on it. So she committed to sending us updates on all these details. So once we get that, then we'll send it out to everybody on council. So it's a little bit more. But yeah. And then, another thing, Minister Farnsworth is also coming up here in May. So there's been a little bit of dialogue back and forth. We've been trying to get a meeting with Minister Farnsworth, and there's been some confusion because I think some think we are having a meeting with him, but we don't know if that's because he's coming up to the regional district and I'm a director at the regional district. But Attorney General Nikki Sharma is going to help push that along and see if he's willing to come in, or if he's committing to come and meet with us here, or we can go to him and meet with him. So so that was all my updates. I don't know if there's any questions. No? All right.
we got a few minutes, so we'll just keep going along here. So 10.2. Anybody like to make that recommendation? Councillor Kemp?
Thank you, Your Worship. In regards to the memo from the mayor, there is a proposed motion that states that staff be directed to research best practices for council meeting schedules that allow sufficient time for staff to complete the directives of council, as well as one meeting every 3 weeks. Further, that staff prepare a report back to council with alternatives for consideration.
Have a second? Councillor Sednick? I can talk a little bit to why I brought this up. Just since being in here, I kind of seen this before when I was on my last term of council, but I didn't want to bring it forward because I figured, with new council, it's good for all of us to kind of get our feet wet and understand how things work. But generally what happens when we have a council meeting every 2 weeks is we'll have a council meeting today, staff then meet tomorrow, and they take the direction from that. They then go to work on all that stuff, which, by the time they have to start working on the next council meeting, they have about 3 days to work on that, because following next Monday, that's when they need to start putting together the next agenda for council. So I've just been in here and seen it, like there's not a lot of time for staff to get going. And some of our council meetings are very quick. So some are 4 hours, and I thought if we do one a little bit less and, maybe it's a 5 hour or 6 hour council meeting, we're not really adding that much more time. They're still being, fairly productive. And we also always have the ability to do special meetings. So if something major comes up and we have to do a couple more special meetings throughout the year, we can do that. So that's kind of why I wanted to bring it forward. It's just more about staff having more not saying that they're not productive with their time, but having more time so that they can be productive on moving forward with their initiatives, and instead of the list just building up because they never have time to get to deal with it. So, yeah. So that's my logic behind it. So is there any other discussion? No? All right. I will put this motion to vote. Oh, and I clicked it. The restart. You were prepared for me to double hit the button. The motion's carried. 10.3 we already dealt with. 10.4, delegation request from the Dawson Creek Judo Association donation request. So their ask is that they're committed to giving out 100 swimming passes to their event that they're holding in town to their participants, and their request is to ask that we look after it. And from what I understood from their presentation, we did in the past. Maybe just a quick thing, Kevin, what the cost would be, and then also the motion, I guess, would have to be to take this out of the grant budget.
Yeah, so through your worship, $476, I believe, for that. One thing to know, we were unable to get any clarity from the delegation was if they're wanting to use those passes the weekend of the tournament, unsure, maybe they're just going to hand them out and then use them whenever, but if they want to use them during the tournament, it's just with pool hours and stuff, it might be a bit tricky because the pool may be closed by the time they're done with their event. But we're unsure if that's their intent. It might be just giving them out and then the folks can use them whenever, but just a note.
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Worship, through you to staff. Is the amount, the $476, based on the assumption that these passes are for children in particular? Because there's a price differential between kids and adults, right? Okay, that's fine. Is there any, it's essentially just kind of not a big deal either way, but just for accuracy's sake.
Through your worship, the hope is you give it to a youth and they bring their parents.
Okay, yeah. Cool. Okay, thank you.
Anybody like to make a motion? Councillor Earl, did you want to?
Yeah, I'll move we provide the requested support for the judo tournament. I think if there's people coming in from out of town, it's a great way to provide added value for them and drive local hospitality and also showcase the facility.
Oh, I have a second?
A seconder, sorry.
But I guess the motion would be
Brenda, does it need to say where the funds will come out of? Or do
Yes.
we- So to
They
take,
come out of the grant budget. Sorry, included in the motion. I assume that was.
okay, and then second was Councillor Apollonio. Any discussion? No. All right, I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Is lunch here? Maybe, Kevin, did you want to give we'll do 11 Chief Administrative Officer operational updates?
So through your worship, I actually don't have anything to update at this time.
Okay, thank you. 12 diary, there's no diary, nothing in the diary. 13 consent calendar. 13.1, just a motion to accept the consent calendar. Councillor Kemp, second. Councillor Sudnick, okay. Okay, consent calendar is, motion was Councillor Kemp, second. Councillor Sudnick. I will call that to vote. Okay. Oh, thank you. I was just thinking how smooth everything was going today, and then I do that. 14 strategic priorities chart. I guess a bit of an update. I think we're finding out if Brian can possibly attend one of our next council meeting potentially. So
Yeah, through your worship, we've confirmed that Brian is available anytime on the 8th.
okay,
We just need to let them know what time works best for you, knowing that some members of council might be going to NCLGA and just trying to work it, but he's available at any time, so we
Okay.
just need to know to confirm.
okay, perfect. Yeah, we'll likely plan that for the morning, but Councillor Sudnick is going to, Northern Health is doing a day before the NCLGA, so Councillor Sudnick's going to go sit on that, so we'll arrange that based on his schedule, so when that will be, so he can be part of that, so. All right. Next, I guess two on the strategic priorities chart. I know there was some comments. Councillor Parslow put some comments forward on this, so I think those will get sent out to council, and that's kind of why we were having Brian come back, just because some of those comments were a little bit different direction or could be than the strategic plan. So those will be sent out so everybody's aware, but that's kind of what we wanted to go over as a group, just to make sure what we have on the strategic plan is what our vision is. So next, media questions. There's no media here. And then I think we will,
Through your worship, the staff sergeant is not here.
Okay.
My recommendation would just to take a break and then have her come back and then present, and then the meeting could go into the in-camera session after that fact.
Okay, so we can break for lunch now until,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, all right, we will take a break for
Oh.
lunch and then we'll come back with committee of the whole.
Okay.
Okay, all right, we'll recess, thank you.
Identified 3 recruits from Depot that, well, I think all 3 are coming in the month of May, so that's going to help us out for sure. Crime trending, our thefts of vehicles, we've seen a significant decrease, 46.9% over last year this time. Theft from vehicle, again, is down 36%. And our break and enter to residences, seen a sharp decline as well, another 37.5%. We did see an increase in break and enter to businesses. Again, that's probably isolated to a couple of individuals that we, I think we have arrested a couple of these individuals on other crimes that we believe to be involved in the break and enter to business. So hopefully we'll see that a decrease in that as well. Assaults, which includes weapon aggravated assault, we see a decrease in that by 32.8%. However, our sexual assault reports have increased by 275%. Again, I think I spoke to this the last time I was here. It's probably and hopefully a situation where victims are feeling more comfortable to come forward and report. That's the hope anyway. We'll monitor that one as the year passes by. Our drug trafficking is down 40%. Impaired driving, just a slight increase, but again, I think coming at a post-COVID and stuff, we'll probably see an increase in that anyway. More proactive patrols, more patrons at the restaurant, bars, so we'll monitor that. Our collisions are down by 17% over the same reporting time last year. Theft, including shoplifting, is down 46%, that's a significant decrease. Our mental health calls are up 45.9% over last year, which we've seen a significant increase in that. It's almost daily reporting now. The Peace Region Crime Reduction Unit, they're still in existence. We're looking maybe till September as it's a temporary trial, which seems to be bringing a lot of success for us. They're pretty active in the community of Dawson and Fort St. John, plus the surrounding communities. They have a couple of active investigations ongoing right now, so hopefully moving forward, we're going to see some great results from that as well in regards to property crime, copper wire thefts, especially out in the on the well sites and stuff. So if you guys have any questions, please ask.
Thank you, Corporal. Open it up for questions. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you, Corporal Peddle. Good to see you. As we've noted on several occasions, much of the property crime, petty theft, things of that nature that occur in town are crimes of opportunity. With the weather changing for the better, how does that impact how you guys police the community as there's a lot more opportunity for these kinds of crimes when it's not -20, -30?
I absolutely agree. I mean, obviously, especially during the night, we need to make sure we're out patrolling. In the next couple of months, hopefully we can do some press release encouraging people to lock up their vehicles, their homes, their sheds, secure the bikes. We see a lot of bike thefts here in Dawson, so, just to take the extra couple of minutes to secure something it probably would go a long way. So I guess the police, in conjunction with the community, everybody pulling in the same direction, would definitely go a long way.
Thank you. Councillor Sudnick?
Thank you. Just a question on your thefts of vehicles. 17 calls for stolen vehicles. How many were recovered?
I don't have that number in front of me, but I would think we're probably 70 to 90%. They don't, if they're not, it's reported on the file, obviously, if they're recovered here in Dawson. A lot of times we'll see they're recovered in Fort St. John or Grand Prairie, Chetwynd. But I could get that number for you if you want.
Sure, just a curious question. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. I had a couple questions, actually, and then just the one you were just talking about, bike theft. I know we brought this up in the past couple of years, but the RCMP used to have bike patrol. And we'd asked, I think, last year, the year before, about bringing it back. And I know it was something that you guys were looking into. I just wanted to see where that was at. I think.
Yeah, and it has been a discussion. I'd have to follow up with Jamie, obviously, but it's a very effective tool. And with, again, post-COVID now, we're able to do more and more training. I'm not sure if any members at our detachment right now have that training, but it is a course that we can bring to Dawson to get the training. So we're able to, if we can get the training here, we can get 8 to 10 members trained at once. So it's definitely beneficial during the summer months.
So is that something that like we should reach into maybe with Jamie just about to see how we can, if there's support the RCMP needs from the city to move to that direction, or?
Yeah, it's something we can look into. Again, it's trainers. We'd have to reach out to our training facility to see who's available, if anyone's available to come here to put off the training.
Okay.
But it's one of those courses that we're fortunate they can travel to us to do it. So
Okay.
yeah, we can definitely follow up with it.
Yeah, that'd be great if you could. Thank you. And then the Peace Region Crime Reduction Unit, I know that having them, there's been a lot of successes around that, and you said it's in trial till September. And I'm assuming like the local detachment would be pushing for it to maintain, but is there anything that we can do from the city? Like, do you need support or letters from us saying that we see some value in this, or?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, at the moment, I guess we're building a business case to get a full-time crew here. So
Okay.
any support at all would definitely help.
Well, I think if there's anything you need along that process, like to bring it to us, because we'll, we've seen the wins right away, and we know how much it's benefiting your jobs. So,
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
Just let us know, because we're definitely in support of that. So, also too, I guess some bit of exciting stuff too. The new staff sergeant is finally scheduled to be here in June, I think. So.
Yeah, it looks like the first week in June, we'll see him here with boots on the ground, hopefully. So
yeah. And then I did talk to you a little bit on the hallway, but I did notice on social media that one of the RCMP members, Raylene Jones, was recognized for award, and then there was also, you said there was a couple more. So I know after learning more, it was for an event a couple years ago, but I just wanted to recognize those, not just those members, but I think every day we look at everything we need to work on and improve, and sometimes what you guys deal with on a day-to-day basis isn't always the most glorious things. So I just wanted to recognize and show that we appreciate what you do, but also those three members that received the award. So I don't know if you want to touch on that a little bit.
So Sergeant Brian Romadnik of the Dawson Creek RCMP, Corporal Raylene Jones of the Dawson Creek RCMP, and Sergeant Clay Warzinger. He's transferred out of Fort St. John now, but he was our PDS at the time. Responded to a call in January of 2020 where potentially somebody could have been killed, and thankfully for all three of their actions, that didn't happen that day, and we were able to successfully make an arrest, and nobody was hurt, or seriously hurt, I should say. But yeah, they were honored last week down in Victoria, and they received a Medal of Valor, all three of them.
Awesome. If you could pass our congratulations on to them, and yeah, I mean to the whole team, but especially those three for doing that. So
absolutely,
yeah, awesome. And then another question. I think it's clear as we're coming in, coming out of COVID, the last couple of years, and the last year has been a little tough with, mental wellness, addiction. We're seeing, the weather's now changing, and it's definitely noticeable that our streets are busier, and I've seen the RCMP at a lot of places in the last, week specifically. So, is there any, I know it's a tough one, and I know it's pulling the RCMP very thin, in every direction. And, but yeah, I don't know, if there's anything you can add to it or things that we could do. I know, the area on 102nd seems to be a fairly busy, prominent area. And, you said earlier that it's not new people from town. It's just they're now, kind of centrally located. So,
yeah, I know over the last 2 or 3 months, one thing that has changed is we meet regularly with our partners in the community. So I attended a meeting about a month ago. Everybody is wanting to pull in that same direction. It's just getting the pieces of the puzzle together, I guess. So it is, I guess, from a policing aspect, it is a little frustrating for the members sometimes, because you're continuously attending these calls for service. But again, that's what we're here for. So if we if we're able to work with our community partners, I think we can maybe alleviate some of those issues. And again, it's not like just a police problem, it's a community problem that we're all hopefully going to find a solution to. So what?
Yeah, we're definitely all in this together, so it's like,
Yeah.
how do we help each other, right?
And I mean, like, the key is, like, please call us. I mean, that's what we're here for, so we can go and help or assist whichever way we can, right? A lot of it, if it's on city property, sometimes it's on private property or a business, we'll do our best to find a solution, so.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess it's clear, like, by your report, you're obviously an increase, but are you expecting to see like a higher increase of these as the weather gets warmer, of the mental illness and like
Hopefully that decreases. Usually with the warmer weather, the calls for service usually tend towards the parties, the alcohol, the assaults. So it would be nice if none of that happened as well, but
yeah,
hopefully the mental health thing will level off or we'll see a decrease.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if there's no other questions. Just wanted to thank you, Corporate Pedal, for coming in and giving us the update and for what you and all the members do every day. So
Thank you. Just one more thing. I believe somebody reached out to Jamie about the new hub program.
Oh, yeah.
So I reached out to District this morning, so it's in its infancy right now. They will pass the information on to us to give to you guys once they get the ball rolling, I guess. But it's early on, so information at the time, I guess, is limited. But we'll get the information to you when we get it.
When you get it, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up. I had it on my list and I missed over that one, so perfect. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too.
See you now.
All right, our next order of business is 17, recess to closed meeting. 17.1, resolution to move into a meeting of council closed to the public for agenda item 3.1, section 90 minutes. As previously noted, agenda item 7.1, section 91E, the acquisition, deposition, or expiration of land of improvements. If the council considers that disclosure, it could be reasonably be expected to harm the interest of the municipality. Motion to Councillor Sudnick, second Councillor Kemp. I'll call that to vote. Vote is closed. That's carried. So we'll take however long we need, 5 minutes, and we'll go into closed.